Hi everyone, and welcome to our Xsolla report webinar. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the country in which we meet. Today, I come to you from the land of the Komomeri saltwater people of the Ugambe language region, and I invite you to think on whose land you are residing on. Sovereignty was never ceded, and the lands have always been and always will be Aboriginal land. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and I extend my welcome to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. So what are we talking about here today? We are checking out the latest Xsolla report in more detail. The game sector has certainly seen a couple of challenges this year, but at the same time, globally, the industry continues to experience unprecedented growth, often driven by innovations in technology and shifts in consumer behavior. As games become an increasingly integral part of daily life for millions around the world, the industry also continues to transform, offering new opportunities. Xsolla recently released their autumn 2024 report, or I don't know, should we say spring for the Southern Hemisphere? Anyway, they released a report, and it offers a deep dive into this changing landscape with a feature section on the current state of the mobile market and the associate opportunities. And that is really exciting, given the size and dynamics of that market. So here with me today is Berkley Egenes, Chief Marketing Growth Officer at Xsolla, who will unpack these findings and discuss how to leverage them. Before hand over, just the usual housekeeping. Please mute yourself and turn the video off while Berkley is presenting. So you've done all of that. All of that have done it. Very good. Thank you. And there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. We were thinking of having this as a bit of a dialogue. So feel free to unmute yourself or put your questions in the chat of Zoom here. You can see that at the bottom. So yeah, just ask your questions in there and, we'll have a bit of a chat. So Berkley, thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having us here today. It's a privilege, honor to be speaking with you. It's kind of funny, you called it out right away, calling it the Autumn Report, and looking at different parts of the world, and we communicate. This is our fifth installment of the Xsolla Report. We'd like to call it the State of Play. Really providing some insights and information we hear. There's a lot of data that gets passed around within the industry from different reports. We consolidate some of that here. As a global video game commerce company and supporting game developers, no matter where you're located around the world, no matter how big you are, what language you speak, or where you're located, to provide equal access and opportunity. We want to do that with data and information and insights that we're seeing here. So we publish this report quarterly. The next one will come out in January. So stay tuned for that when coming into it. But this one, we really wanted to focus on the dynamic changing marketplace that we've seen, and a lot of the rules and regulations and policies and changes that have happened in mobile. We obviously talk about cloud, we talk about DMA, we talk about diversity in this report. And so let's just kind of dive in. We'd like to give you just kind of a preview of it as well, hopefully sharing on the screen what's going on, the action-packed materials that are included in here. A little forward to talk about, the growth and what we're seeing in the industries. You hear different stories, you read different things, layoffs, reductions, things like that. But what we're seeing is actual growth. We're seeing growth trajectory that's happening across the board and across the geographies. And wanted to highlight some of that here as we go forward. And it's one of the things we're starting to see, particularly from the mobile perspective, that global market is growing. We're protecting almost $100 billion in revenue in 2024, meaning across the enterprise for mobile games that you're seeing across the full ecosystem. Asia contributing almost 3/4 of that. What's going on in Australia specifically, we have to call that out, but about $1 billion in projected revenue that's going to be coming in there. Asia is the driving force. APAC, that we include, from a regional perspective, Australia, New Zealand kind of gets lumped in there sometimes, looking at that. But really just to emphasize, the global solutions and the opportunities that are available to developers. And it's more than just payments, and looking at what's possible and what's going on. We're seeing growth. We're seeing continued, earnings that are going up. We're seeing instant payouts. VR is getting into it. And then even investments that we're starting to see and what's going on. Different groups are seeing large transactions that are coming in through from an acquisition standpoint. And then we're seeing a lot of growth. Obviously, a lot of things that have been happening in EMEA, particularly Saudi Arabia, with the Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. There's some highlights here that goes into it. So the investments that are starting up from that region, the money might generate and originate from there, but being able to look at it from a global perspective and some of the acquisitions that group has made in the region, but it's more than just what you see in the region specifically. It's game developers from APAC, it's the United States. Folks down the street from us have been acquired in part of those conversations and receiving funding. So there are opportunities for funding out there, and that's one of the big ones that we've seen what's going on coming into the region. And then you look at some of the highlights on cloud that we're seeing. We're still seeing growth happening in the cloud perspective. And from a game developer's perspective, what that means is it's really providing another distribution channel for games to be able to host that game being played online through the cloud, no matter what location somebody's in. They could bounce between the mobile device to the PC to a laptop to an iPad to be able to play that game wherever they want. And then it's a unique opportunity too that we've seen as well for game developers to trial out, use it almost as a UA tool, and for players to go in, play as they go, play and pay as they go. So what that means is from a cloud perspective, and you log into a game that's being hosted on the cloud, you play it, only pay for what you use, only the hours you use. You don't have to buy the whole thing. Pay for what you're doing, pay for the first couple levels, and then you can go level up and purchase the whole game there online if you so desire, and kind of like do a test drive of the game. So it's been pretty interesting that we go into it. But one of the things, we see you guys at events all around the world. And one of them that we wanted to, kind of go through here is Gamescom. That happened in Germany. Australia had a big section there as well, a big, huge booth. And it was like a great place to go and to visit with everybody. But, one of the things that we're seeing is always, the rise in cross-media projects, shifting investment focus to Europe, mergers and acquisitions. We talked about that as well. But really looking at, December being a key time period, and a lot of games are going to be coming out, getting ready for that holiday push that we see as well. So it was a good event. We're continuing to see that from games that want to go cross-play, cross-pay, being multiple distribution methods going into it. So that's just kind of like summarizes that we highlight. So we'd love to do in this report, take a couple snippets, some of the experiences that we've seen, and share that with everybody. And then really look at, what's going on in the industry. And this is one of the things we talk about. And I think it's a really important conversation, and talk about representation in the games industry. Gaming is not the stereotypical dude. It's not just guys. All the time is one of the things we learned, particularly over the last several years coming post-COVID. 87% of women play mobile games on a weekly basis. And that's a huge number. That's more, obviously, more than men going into it. But looking at it from the casual games and some of the solutions that we offer, it's not just free-to-play role-playing games, RPGs, first-person shooters that are exciting. It's different casual strategy puzzle games that are generating a lot of attraction. And brands are continuously getting involved. You're seeing Elf Cosmetics and some NYX getting involved in, its makeup from that perspective, but seeing those brands, non-endemics, coming into gaming because of the influx of female players that we're seeing around the world. It's not just an America's thing, it's global.
It
that we're seeing
absolutely
those
is.
numbers come to play.
And it's the same in Australia, and I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
one of the things, like, we do research into Australian demographics. Like every 2 years we release a report, and guess what the fastest growing demographic is for gamers in Australia? It's women over 65.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there you go. You wouldn't expect
And
that, but there you are.
it's stereotypical, you don't, but one of the things that is we always say, everyone's a gamer. It doesn't matter what platform you're on, what type of game. You don't have to be playing Fortnite, Call of Duty, things like that as well. We'd love it when you do. Those are they're incredible games, but there's, Candy Crush, puzzle games. Monopoly Go has changed that game completely, and what's happening and the dynamics and the demographics that are logging into that game on a daily. They're running ads on NFL games now. And it's crazy that you see here in the United States what's going on, but it's getting that casual audience that comes into it. And a lot of that is from the female players. And then even in esports, you're seeing significant growth and people making nearly $500,000 in career earnings as an esports player and streaming influencer that comes into it. So we like to highlight and do a conversation. So Laura was great from her product management perspective on LinkedIn and what she's seen from a creativity and what's going on in the industry. So this is a highlight of her interview that she gave with us. Talk about the barriers, trends, things that you're seeing and like watching. And obviously it's targeting, you know, a multicultural, multi-demographic perspective and viewer base of what's happening. And it's really important that we all pay attention and do a better job of that as we go forward. So the big meat and potatoes, as we like to call it, is on mobile in this report. And it's really wanted to highlight, we got a lot of feedback from folks and we love that. So keep that feedback coming. Send us messages on LinkedIn, Twitter, excuse me, X, you know, Facebook, everywhere else that like what you want to see from these reports. One of the big things was in mobile that we continue to hear. And so latest trends in mobile, we're seeing, like we talked about, you know, nearly 100 billion projected revenue with an uptick of almost 120 billion by 2027. You're seeing that just from game revenue. And then mobile advertising obviously is off the charts and it's going to continue on that trajectory. We're almost what is that, 400 billion in 2024 that you're going to see from a revenue perspective. But one of the, you know, some of the things you're seeing is people are willing to pay for in-app purchases. They're becoming more valuable. There's getting more importance of what's going on and reasons why they do that and make those purchases and among players. But one of the things that's changed the game, and it's coming out of Europe, is the Digital Markets Act that was announced and then rolled out in the spring of this past year, excuse me, March. So we get the seasons correct for you guys. And really looked at the, you know, monopolistic practices as they were being labeled and the reports that, you know, performing formal reviews and what's going on, but really providing a more equitable opportunity for game developers to talk about, market their game through their own channels and take control of that conversation of what's going on and really making, you know, what's going on in the industry and what we're seeing across the world is game developers taking that control. They're still putting their game on the platform, and we always encourage that. Take your mobile game, put it on Apple, put it on Google. Same thing on a PC game, put it on Steam. Do it. And then use other channels to go promote and market it to your players and looking at it. We're seeing the continual growth. We're seeing it in Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina, and Latin America, 3 key countries there in that region. Europe, UK, Germany, France are popping off in different locations that you're seeing from the games being played and the revenue being generated. And one of the things, areas that we're focused on too is Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa. The development that's coming there is mostly mobile games. So to be able to educate, communicate, work with the community there of what we're experiencing, what they're seeing, and giving us feedback of what we're able to do. So the whole crutch of it is to be able to take from a mobile perspective, engage with your players, treat it as a direct-to-consumer channel and a platform. And we call that a web shop, which we're going to get to after we get through the Australia and New Zealand numbers. So let's pause here for a second as well. But there's almost 10 million mobile players with a penetration rate of 33%. There in Australia, revenue, we talked about almost $1 billion. And we're seeing growth. It was happening because overwhelming majority is on mobile games coming out of the region with significant spend and investment. And then, you know, we're seeing a higher growth trajectory in New Zealand as well, with revenue continuing to rise. It grew single digits last year, and what we're seeing, but we're expecting more growth and things that are coming out, some of the games that are being developed that are ready to go. So one of the things we talk about is the sessions, the data points that we're seeing and the content, and then in-app purchases that we have and how you communicate and what's possible in the post-DMA world. I kind of wanted to jump to this conversation because it's worth a lot more explaining of what's going on. So the mobile games and what you're having for post-DMA, what you can do and it's really solidified some of the litigation that's happening in the United States, but also in Europe for DMA. You're able to, if you're a mobile game developer, you are able to promote your game in app, and then send them to a website. Go get release notes. Go get information about the characters that are in the game. And then once somebody's there, then you can talk about the web shop. You can't do it direct from the app to the web shop, but you can through your channels. Social media, you can talk about your web shop. What is a web shop? Let's start there. It is a true direct-to-consumer engagement opportunity and platform that you can use to manage your brand, manage your experience, and then offer incentives and bonuses, top-ups, rewards, bundle packs that you go to be able to purchase those online. It's a unique and different offer that's in-app. Make the purchase online, do it at a lower fee, but get people to go back to the mobile game. We want them on the mobile device and play that mobile game. So when you log in on your web shop, the user logs in on the web shop online, makes the purchase. So in theory, you can go make that purchase on your desktop at work, go jump on the train, jump in the Uber, in the taxi, getting home and play the game using those digital items that you purchased on the web shop on that mobile device in that exact session because the accounts are linked. And what we're seeing is significant growth that's going into it, particularly with everything that's happening in advertising. We got the web shops here in the article, but looking at what has been happening, and we were seeing more and more revenue that's being generated. We have I'm going to jump to a success story that we have here with our friends at Tilting Point with Warhammer, and some of the conversations we've been having. They're generating over 50% of their revenue from their web shop because what they're doing is they're doing unique offers on the weekly. So players know when that offer is coming. I'm going to jump down to it and then bounce back up in the report. But they're having significant presence and engagement, but they take a serious opportunity. They really take a look at it, use it as another distribution platform. They have people that are focused on the web shops, just like they do social media, just like they do content distribution and what's going on. So, I mean, some of the numbers are saying 81% of their players are aware of their web shops, and over 3/4 have made a purchase. So that's looking at it, and a significant number of folks of what's going on in their engagement in their community, and they're able to deliver that revenue to their business and keep the numbers on the rise of what's going on. The goal here is get people twofold. One, we always talk about user acquisition, getting people who haven't been in there, a new channel to go make a purchase that's unique, create a FOMO event, and get them to come in to play your game. But the other ones are the ones that, you know, might not have registered or logged in the last couple of weeks, last month. Get them to come back. Get those what we call dolphins who are making, you know, $50 purchases, coming and make a $100 US purchase, coming to make a $250. We have games that are recording over $1,000 on a purchase for a mobile game for skins, virtual items. There's some that are running $10,000. You are having higher revenue, higher purchases, and that are being made through the web shops and what's possible. And then you load that content into your user ID and your account, and you play it all back on the phone. And that's the goal in getting people to go. And so you're seeing more player usage, you're seeing higher monthly active users, you're seeing a higher ARPU, and what you're having from the transactions that are happening through the web shop for these mobile games. And then to come back up here is just some, you know, success points that Artem on our team, he's our business head and head of the product, that what's going on and like what makes a successful web shop. What do you do? And it's a part, you know, these 5 golden rules we talk about is treat it as an extension of your game. The same branding, the same messaging, the same colors, the same characters, put that into it, and then continuously communicate with your community. Tell them the new ads, or the new offers are up. Send out a social post, send out a newsletter that what's going on. Get feedback on like what the offer was. You know, what we learned too in a lot of these is we'd have some developers do, you know, an ad that, or an offer that wasn't incremental. It was the same, and the users kind of rebelled. And they go, I get what you're doing here, but we're just going to purchase it in there. That's the focus on value. Create additional value. You know, it could be one way, and it's, you know, what would have been $100 for a similar package or similar bundle in the app, charge 150 and throw in a couple additional items, something unique, limited time quantities, things like that that generate interest and that delivers additional value. And then keep it super simple. Eliminate friction. Don't have extra steps that are required into it. Don't make them sign up, different things or do different login systems. Have them pre-log in. Have that all set up. It's already set there. Remember me. So you just go into a simple clicks and then leverage those power of live ops. Where we look at it is really lies in that ability to deliver personalized offers, loyalty programs, targeted promotions. If you know somebody went and made that purchase and they wanted a football skin or they wanted a specific amount of coins or gems, hit them again. Give them the different offer that's going on. Hey, it's been a month. You notice, what's going on in the purchase that they made from the purchase behavior, and go back and get them a unique offer. If you come back, well, hey, we'll give you another 5% off, something like that. Or give them, we'll give you 5%, 20% more gems if you're able to go make this purchase based on, a personalized offer that you make for them. So those are some of the learnings that we have. And here it's a true D2C platform for gaming it's focused on mobile games. So you can really make those purchases online, pay online, play on the device. You'll generate an enhanced player experience, better revenue potential, and you'll help lower that friction. And what we're seeing is growth. You can read some report that shows mobile gaming usage or revenues down, but that's only using in-app. It's not taking what's happening online. We've launched over 500 web shops with our development partners in the last 2 years. We are humbly the world's leading provider of web shops and have helped game developers generate over 1.5 billion in revenue over the last 2.5 years. It's something we're very proud of. We were in front of the game. That's for the developers. We do this so that they can be successful. They can learn more. They can earn more, try different things, and take control of that opportunity and really go and push it and get people onto the mobile device and continue to play. The cool thing too from the game, is you're in a long sesh, they're happening. You've made that purchase and that bundle. They'll still make purchases. They'll still make IAPs. What's going on and what we're seeing, and absolutely, Apple and Google are winning too when they do that as well. And some of the things that we're seeing. And then, this is the big crux of it and what wrapped us up here and what we're seeing. And that's one of the things we really we dive into the nuts and bolts of things. And there's a lot of information here included of what's happening, particularly from the mobile perspective. And this is what we encourage, people to get involved, read the report, see what's going on. And then, you'll take some insights out of this and see what's going on. Look at what's happening across media. You've got other folks that as well. You're having game developers becoming IP partners. Next thing you know, there's streaming content, and they have a series on Amazon. They have it on Hulu, Netflix, obviously in different places around the world. So you're seeing that conversion of entertainment content. I think that's why South by Southwest is there now in Australia. I'm sad I missed it this year. I was there last year, the year before. Looking forward to get out there. In October later this year in 2025 coming up to it, but really looking at, and that's why that event kind of exists and putting that together. It's really that conversion you're seeing IP content entertainment of what's happening. People want to get engaged. IP providers want to continue the lifespan of their IP, what's going on. That's why you see a ton of movies having multiple games, multiple versions. Who would have known what Spider-Man would have done last year, but that game flew off the charts because it was just an incredible game. As game developers, fight for eyeballs, just like, content and movies and everybody else does. On the mobile device, you fight for thumbs, as we like to say. You want more thumbs playing the games and putting in there and providing that opportunity to provide something unique, provide something of value through the web shop is a key driver that we're going to continue to see as we go into 2025. We're really excited about the opportunity that exists for developers, and we want to keep seeing mobile games coming out of Australia, New Zealand, all over APAC as well. And we want to play those here. We want to play, help you be active and get your game, not only to launch it in Australia, but to be able to distribute it, have it available to folks in Latin America, Europe as well, and we can help everybody out by doing that. And contacting us here at Xsolla and what's going on and what we have available. We'd love to talk to you. I think Simon's on the call with us from Sydney down there, one of our good near and dear friends on the Xsolla team. So don't hesitate to get in contact with us, Simon as well. But I know we went through, we're like 20, almost 30 minutes in here, but I'd love to take some questions, thoughts that people have, feedback hear from everybody.
Thank you so much, Berkley. Yeah, over to you, team. Feel free to ask some questions. Like I said, you can put them in the chat or feel also free to unmute yourself and ask those questions directly. So yeah, ask away. I guess, maybe to give people some opportunity to sort of digest this all. What I really find interesting about these web shops is the ability to appeal directly to the consumer. And I guess that's something that we're seeing more and more, right? Sort of in the context of self-publishing, and I guess the importance of community engagement and marketing and having to think about that right from the start. Like, what's your take on that? I mean, is that also something that you can potentially assist with and give some direction, right? Like just the ability to engage.
Yeah, it's, a lot of people, you develop a game and you want to do it quick. A lot of mobile games, and there's some developers that pump out a mobile game version every 12 days. That's nuts. And they just keep going and fast and turn and burn. And they literally have, almost a factory of games that are being produced and they're different versions of IP and what's going on. But you got to build the strategy, build the plan, and keep it, just like you're ready to do it. Like, I'm going to do a paid media campaign for user acquisition, or I'm going to do social media posts in your social team. And you may be 20 people, you may be 250 people in your company, but somebody's thinking about that and like what's going on. Build that out as part of your strategy and what's going on. Where are you going to drive the engagement? Where are you going to drive people to experience things? They want to see gameplay video. They want to see things from your influencers. They want to see a destination where they can go and have a real relationship with you as the game developer and the game itself. Don't treat it as a transaction, treat it as a relationship, and communicate with your community. Put community channels up there, build FAQs based on feedback you have. Thank those people, give them incentives or rewards for commenting and giving you feedback on what's happening. And you can set that up based on through your web shop. Run email campaigns, CRM out of it, and really test some things. That's one of the beauties, that it's more nimble. That you can go test an offer and then, hey, go update what you had in app, because you're like, oh, we were running updates and it was on Tuesdays, but Thursdays was the day that we should have been doing it. We have folks, Tilting Point does a great job of that, and they look at it. They have multiple games that we work with those guys. They run, one game they have that goes Tuesday, Fridays, and if they miss it by like a couple of hours, the community calls. They light them up on social. I'm like, where's my offer? I'm ready to play for my weekend sesh. I need my gems. I need my skins. I need my characters. I need this. And they want to go make that purchase on a weekly basis because they're that dedicated to, the Star Trek IP as an example of what's happened. Those guys, I mean, that goes hand in hand. That community is incredible. But to be able to play a game on your mobile device and what's going on, they may be traveling for the weekend, but get engaged, consider it part of your strategy, your rollout plan that you're executing, and then find a partner you work with. We work with large, small, in between. It doesn't matter where people are located. You have the same opportunity, the same access to tools and services, and we can help you build out some of these plans and give you recommendations to go forward. But treat it, do a beautiful game. Great game mechanics, great storyline, launch it. Get your social media posts supporting on it, what's going on, support the app stores, launch a web shop as you get down the road, start testing of what you're seeing, the different offers, and you'll learn a lot and you'll win.
Yeah, super interesting. And I guess one of the most important takeaways is think about it right from the start, right? Like don't treat it as an afterthought, make it part of your immediate strategy, and don't just sort of like build it and they will come, but think about it in parallel.
Some people, we've heard a lot of feedback was like, I should have launched this 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And it's, they're 9 months in. And you like get all the bugs, get the kinks and all that stuff out of the game, and like what's going on, because we all know that happens as part of development, and you're doing a couple patch notes and different things that go into it, which is great. Then do it a couple, if you want to wait and do it a couple months later. Some games that have, multi-game, or as a publisher that has multi-games, then they'll launch it immediately, and then it's just part of the plan. And they go and support it because they have a good live ops team to be able to execute those, provide those personal incentives, those opportunities, do sneaky things in the games that, somebody might have asked for, and they'll be like, that's cool. Like, they actually listened to me. And I've sent, we'll hear social media stories all the time. It's like, hey, submitted this request in like 6 months ago, and they actually did it. And that's really cool. And you'll get a better following by doing things like that.
Yeah, and I think the metaphor for relationship describes that really well.
For sure. For sure.
I haven't seen any more questions in the chat, but while we're at it, I mean, I noticed that the report highlighted Asia, in particular Southeast Asia, as a sort of major opportunity in terms of growth. I mean, that is right on Australia's doorstep. You look at, a place like Indonesia, which is one of the most dynamic markets in the region in terms of revenue and growth. And so I guess the sort of question is that sounds great, but is there, how can I as an Australian take advantage of that? Is it via web shops, and what else is there? Is there anything unique about these markets? And I'm cognizant of the fact that it's not one monolith of a market. Like each of those countries has probably different quirks and different requirements.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we can help folks with. We have a lot of game developers. Let's just use this as an example. You launch a game in Australia because you have the local payment methods, you have different things that are going on, and you want to get into China, you want to get into Southeast Asia, you want to get into Korea, and then you have to enable the local payment methods to have access to that. Meaning, easy one in Japan, example going a little further north, Line or PayPay, is you have to turn that on. And it's not something that's just automatic that you have to be able to do. There's currency fluctuations, there's legal requirements that go for operating in that region. And looking at the numbers of what's going on, whether it's in China, Korea, Southeast Asia as a whole, and seeing these numbers that are clicking in, that's where another way that Xsolla can help out is be able to unlock those payment methods for you. And we operate as a merchant of record. And what does that mean? It's we handle all the complexities. We handle the back end ops and things for you, from, we call it the non-sexy, the non-flashy things, because it's not beautiful gameplay. It's we're accepting transactions on your behalf in the regions in which you want to go to. If you want to open up APAC, you can give us a call. We can help you. We can integrate those payment methods and turn them on for you. That's a key versus being dependent on a credit card, as an example, because not everybody in these regions have credit cards. They could be unbanked. They only want to do mobile wallets. They want to do apps. We can connect that in there for you, because each one of those is a different payment method. So we support over 700 payment methods around the world in 200 different geographies. So that's how you can take advantage. It's right literally in your backyard. I know it's a long flight.
Everything's a long flight.
It may not look like that on a globe, but it's a long flight to go do that. But it's to be able to turn those on. We've had success stories many times, and we've had developers, and we call it the Mediterranean areas, and wanted to turn on Korea, Taiwan, and Japan. And when they did, they went 10x.
Yeah, well,
their business, because you open up the payment methods and make it available for your partners. For your players, excuse me.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, India is a great example, in the sense that, it's a massive market. You have more than 1 billion potential customers, and yet hardly anyone has a credit card. And so there's an opportunity there. I mean, but then again, India is also a great example of a potentially bit of a challenging market. And I don't know if you have the answer, but let me put it out there. I mean, India is one of the most prolific downloaders of games and apps, yet is also a market that doesn't really see that many in-game purchases. I mean, is there any sort of advice that you can give how to how to nail that and how to address that
Yeah,
challenge?
that's an interesting dynamic too as well. They're very specific. I would say India and China has two of the most strictest regulations on gameplay.
Yeah.
That what goes on. So there's first that, like, make sure you're in complete compliance. I can't really help you on that one, on that scenario. But opening up those payment methods, Paytm we added in India there about a year and a half ago and stuff, and that opened up 50% of the market immediately. Very mobile based and what's going on, app based platform and payment method to go as well, and turn that on. And we're seeing significant traffic that goes into it from that payment method specifically in India because the numbers are staggering and it's all mobile.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like whenever I see the numbers come out of India, it's like this is just mind-boggling.
For sure, for
So
sure.
just being able to take advantage of that dynamic, and targeting that is quite important. So I guess as a sort of takeaway, make sure you're compliant. That goes without saying. You implement the right payment system so that you are targeting the market and people can actually spend their money with you. I guess localizing content is important as well,
Mhm.
in terms of, like when it comes to web shops, I assume
Right.
there's an opportunity as
That's
well, right? Like,
critical.
align it with local tastes, with local events, have have a sort of public holiday. And I mean, I guess that's an important part of the strategy as well, right?
No, you're absolutely correct. And you need to be, we call it localized. It's not translating.
Yeah.
Localized to that community. Don't run a promo on a holiday. Be mindful of what's going on in the local region and what's happening, and don't run them on, off days and religious holidays and things like that are going on. Just be smart about it when you're planning out those updates and what's going on. If you want that higher engagement, be respectful. Colors, everything like that makes a big difference because that's why we don't even call it translations here. We call it localization,
Yeah.
making it customized to that experience. That's just part of it, part of the game, part of the experience that you have. Make sure, as you go into it, your game, and we have had a lot of situations that have come up and what's happening, and like just be able to address it. And then when we're a payment method, if there's some rules, regulations, changes in the geopolitical, we handle all of that. What's going on, everybody, we keep you compliant, and that's on us, so we handle it. Legal, taxation, um, sanctions, other things that go on, that and rules and regulations. So it's very, very hard if you're, I say 4 people in a garage building a game or in a, an indie studio to handle all of that stuff. It's complicated. It's not pretty, but we can handle that very, very quickly for you. It's just some digital paperwork that we sign with you guys and turn it on, and you're able to open up into different geography and really support that local community. And I think I
There
just
is a
saw
question,
pop up.
yes, there, and it's a really
Yeah.
good one
Are there?
from Blake. And Blake is saying, are there any unexpected game content or genre trends in these non-Western markets? Really good point. Like, is there anything that these markets prefer that we're like, oh wow, I had no idea.
Mm. And the non-Western ones, I mean, mobile's king. What's going on? We're seeing more casual that's coming into it. The shooters, the free to plays, those role playing games, things like that, they get all the press, they get all the pub. But what we're seeing in the numbers, that kind of, you got to take a step back. But when we really dive into the data, obviously we talked about female, but that's global.
Mm.
That's not a Western thing. That carries over to global, carries over to APAC, carries over to Australia, Europe as well. So that shouldn't have been unexpected, but for most games, but people were seeing to get into it. But the casual game, the simple puzzle games, developing a web shop for those and putting that together provides an additional added incentive for players to come into it. We're seeing it doesn't matter what genre. The stereotypical thing was the free to play, the shooters would, the new skins and get a new weapon, so to speak, and a digital item that you can buy, was the expectation. But what we're seeing is now is get, more gems, more things to be able to use in these casual games and these puzzle games and what's going on. That has been a significant driver in what we're seeing from different partners across the board, and it's a global perspective. So that was something interesting, but it's particularly in APAC that we're seeing as well. A lot of these casual games. You look around, if you travel, it all and just kind of lean over, see what somebody's on the subway, what they're doing at their queue, waiting for the car to come pick them up and things like that. It's a casual game.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, I've recently went to Indonesia to an event
Hmm.
there, and we also had a presentation on Indonesia at GCAP, our conference that we run in Melbourne, and
Yeah.
that was really interesting in the sense that that alone is already a fairly complex market, but casual games do figure indeed quite prominently in there. So I met an Indonesian developer who was successful because what they did. They created casual games based on TikTok trends in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Yes, they were short-lived, but
Who would
they
have
were one
thought?
of the most successful mobile game developers in Indonesia. Look, Indonesia is also partly dominated by some really big IPs. But then again, there are these opportunities, regional trends, and that's the other thing. One thing that works quite well in some of these markets, anyway, again, they're all a bit different, but in some of these markets is really hyper localized content, right?
Yep.
And these sort of TikTok trend games were really, really good example there. So I guess that's also one thing to be mindful. Like, the audience in some of these markets really do appreciate something that they can relate to via this hyper localization. So I guess in that sense, that may be unexpected because, we admittedly may not immediately have an idea of what TikTok trends there are in Indonesia. But, I thought that was quite interesting as an opportunity for them to create their
For
own
sure.
niche opposite some of these really larger IPs.
Yeah, if you're nimble enough to take advantage of that and what's topical and trending, do it. Try it, experiment, test. You might fail on one of them, but you're not failing because you're learning a lesson. You think you failed because it didn't hit your numbers, your KPIs, but you learn that lesson from it. Don't do it again. But you find out a different one. It was like, oh, we should have done it this way. Okay, got it. We'll be better next time. And putting that together. So those are things you should try. And I think mobile's the easier one to do and to be able to provide that opportunity in some of the game mechanics that are going on, to be able to make those changes faster.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I mean, in terms of unexpected genres, what I also found, I mean, I could be wrong, but at the end of the day, a good game is a good game, right? As long
Right.
as you have a really solid gameplay loop, and people will react to that universally because it's almost like, it's sort of a universal human experience, the engagement that happens through just good design
For
and
sure.
the sort of flow effect that it has. So I guess, you know, good is good worldwide.
Exactly. Exactly. Does Xsolla, one more question we got,
Yeah,
Michael,
Michael. So I'm just going to read
does
it
it
out so
go
that
for it? Yeah.
for people who may watch the recording. Does Xsola's localization assistance with regulatory compliance go beyond payment issues? For example, loot box regulation.
Yeah, that's a topical, it's popular topic of conversation. So yes, we address some of those things and what's going on. It's not just regulatory compliance, it is taxation, it is different things
Mm,
that goes into it and different mechanics that are legal in some places and not in others. That what goes on in, the general perception of what those are. We help people address and navigate that process. It's case by case basis, Michael. So good question, and like what you have and from the mechanics that you're having in your game and what type of offers that you want to, provide to players. But we will coach you and help you through that process of, what is compliant. We're like, hey, I want to do whatever platform in or a different type of mechanic in like NFTs was a big topic of conversation as an extension for your game. And want to do that in China. Does it make sense?
mm.
And it's not a market that you would want to kind of go after and engage with. But you look at it and we'll kind of navigate you, but you want to do that elsewhere and you do it in Southeast Asia, that might make sense.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. All right. Do we have any more questions, thoughts, comments?
Cool. Oh, this was great. Hit us up. Check us out at xsolla.com, obviously, from our website. Go to the URL there and then download the full report. Love to hear feedback. Love to get notes from you guys too as well. It's something you're like, hey, would you mind diving into this on your next report? Love to have that conversation. Hit us up on X, LinkedIn, different places as well from a social media. That's where I'm at most of the time. So happy to just to handle it, Berkley Egenes, on both platforms. I'd love to have a conversation with folks. Simon's on here as well, so he's our local as well, and near and dear friend to the show, and putting it together. So we look forward to seeing everybody, at next shows. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you see us at a show, you see us at, a speaking engagement, please come up and say hello. We'd love to talk with everybody and hear what's going on and what you're working on, because there's some fun projects that are coming in 2025. I cannot wait
Ooh,
to see what
exciting.
2025 is going to be a critical and pivotal year. I have to see it as another high trajectory year for the games industry, what's happening and the growth that is going to go as people, I guess, normalize post-COVID. You're starting to see numbers increase and go into it. And I look forward to seeing that's going to happen in Australia specifically.
Yeah, very exciting indeed. And again, don't forget to talk to Simon. He is, he's easy to find and does great work. Absolutely. So, if you are worried about, I don't know, payment compliance in the Philippines, like, what, I just can't be bothered, which is fair enough. You know who to talk to. Before we go, one more question. Berkley, how many enemies have you killed with that sword behind you?
None.
Oh, okay.
I wish it. That's funny. And what's going on? We're gamers too. Some people call us a fintech company or payments company and stuff as well, but we're gamers too. We write books and things like that. We love Daft Punk, what's happening from a music perspective. So we like to decorate.
People with a passion. Look, thank you so much, Berkley. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you everybody else for dialing in. You all have a great holiday break and a happy new year. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you all in 2025. Berkley, let's do this again once you have the next report out. So thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
And see you later.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Have a good one.